Welcome to the Stoppage Time edition of the Pitch to Pro podcast. This is a highlight reel of some of the best moments from the show so far, and every other week we will be bringing you a special 5 to 7 minute segment featuring the best stories, tales, and moments of the podcast.
In Hawaii, when you're seeing players going and you're seeing them doing good stuff, wow, you're like, well, if he can do it, I think I can do it. You know, and same thing here when you see players in Northern Arkansas start going places and they're doing stuff, and the community gets smaller and smaller, the soccer community gets smaller and smaller, you know, and you're like, whoa, like so and so did it. Like you have to know that because that's inspiration, right? Like that's motivating, and it's tangible, right? Like you're seeing it and you're like, I can get there too. And so like that's what I'm doing with the 2012s and the Ozark United. It obviously looks different at the different ages. The 2012 group is a interesting age because, you know, like you said, it's huge in their development, in the development years. For what I think, the engagement on the intellectual side of the game is very important, right? Because that, like, how they think through the game now, it kind of shapes how they're going to think through the game as they get older. And as they get older, it's really hard to kind of get out of those ways, right? It's hard to learn, or your thought processes are really hard to change. But right now, it's very malleable. How did I say that right? You can really
Absolutely.
mold those things. So you can really mold it now.
We'll talk. I mean, you've been in Northwest Arkansas as a player, a college student, and then now, you know, gone off and continue to play at a high level as a pro, and then come back and been around in the area for a while now. You know, started a family and now in the coaching space. How is the game, like, talk about the growth of the game in the area and what you've seen in your experience, and then, you know, kind of tie that into then what you're now getting to do with the U20 boys and how that's kind of culminating.
Yeah. Well, I coached a player at JBU who is from this area, and he was a top player. Actually did some really good stuff, like set some really high records at JBU. And as I've engaged even with the youth side of it, there's talent. There's talent here, you know. And I think what for me is really important is to meet talent with content, right? Like to push that. Like I think the talents here, and as things get more tangible, and they say in the pathway, right? That helps. But like any education, you have to meet people where they are and be able to get them to where they're going. And so it's, as a coach, it can be, and I wrestle with this stuff because I'm fairly new. I'm fairly new into coaching. I wrestle with, man, I want to win because that's how I was as a player. And every coach is that way, that competitive drive. Every parent's that way. If you're in a competitive like environment, you probably want to win, no doubt.
Yeah.
Right? Like no one plays. Yeah. I don't know of anyone who plays soccer or coaches soccer and says I like losing. You know, So it's like you wrestle with that pride a bit, but to win at the expense of development, like I don't know if that's very good. It may be good feeling, but for development's sake, the player's not getting anything. And right. And I can only say this because I was this way as a player. You see through people, you see through stuff. Even if you're winning, you see through it. And so like it, and being able to like receive that content, so important, because that if you're being challenged and you see your learning going up and up and up, well, then your hope and your dream almost seems to be a bit more realized, right? Like if I feel like I'm being pushed and I'm being taught better, and this is the same thing in school, like if you're getting content that's challenging and you're being engaged by a professor or a teacher that's really pushing you and really, well, especially in the college, and I think in the college environment, if you have a professor who's really pushing you and engaging with your own, say, papers or your own work, and they're able to get you to where you want to go, well, that's very actually encouraging, right? And so, and when that happens, you're like, okay, well, I think I can actually reach something that I want to reach. But if I can't, then well, if I don't see that, that class is not a fun class. In other words, that class is a joke, right? Like
Right.
you don't take that class seriously. You don't take that team seriously. You don't take that season seriously, right? So it's like I find that, and it is, especially at the higher levels too. That it's I guess important, but like maybe there's a better word than important or vital. It's vital that you get content right because the content is like it kind of matches that pathway, right? And so yeah, at the one it's like the 2012s, the U13s, U14s. Yeah, trying to shape how they see the game is very important. But once it's shaped, you got to be able to continue to push and push. Um, so
That's awesome. Well, I mean, talk about, transition a little bit here and let's talk about your experience so far, right? Still ongoing with
yeah,
the U20 boys academy program with Ozark United. What did you see from the response to tryouts and the level, and then how this group that truly was representation of our community at large from all corners, and a lot of, and I'll let you talk about it, but we had players that were rivals for the majority of their playing career, now coming together and getting the best talent in the same place under the same badge and playing together and competing at really, really high levels.
yeah. The experience, I don't really know where to start. Because there's a lot to it. I think. So I guess tryouts was, man, the amount of like players that showed up, that was really awesome. And you're seeing all these players, and as a coaching staff, you're like, oh man, like, well, we gotta sort through these players, and that was a challenge in itself. But like, just all those players coming out, I think it showed something to the community, right? About this, almost this, I want to be a part of this. There's togetherness, so to speak. And while they may not think it at the time, like these players, like you were saying, coming from different clubs in this area together, and they're playing, and not only just playing together, but they succeed together, right? And that's shown in what we've done in this fall season.
Thank you for joining us for this stoppage time special of the Pitch to Pro podcast. If you've enjoyed the conversation, you can click watch the full episode here. Be sure to tune in next Thursday for a new episode of the Pitch to Pro podcast,
the official podcast of Ozark United FC.
available on YouTube, Instagram, and everywhere you get your podcasts.